Welcome to the Woman's Connection. I'm Barry Louise Switson, your moderator. The Woman's Connection is a program about events shaping women's lives and helping one gain authentic power on a personal or professional level. So won't you stay tuned?
Welcome. With the internet giving us so much news, it's really hard to decipher which is real and which is fake. A lot of it we can move to the side, but when it comes to our health, we need to know what is real. And with me today is Felicia Stoller, and we're going to talk about nutrition and our health. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Why don't we start with a little bit about your background, how you became a nutritionist, and you've got a slew of expertise.
Yeah, so interesting. This is my third career. I worked as a paralegal at a big Wall Street law firm, and I worked a few blocks away at ABC News doing licensing for the network news division. And when I was at ABC News, I spoke to somebody about getting a master's in journalism, and she said, "There are a dime a dozen around here. Why don't you go to school for something you're really passionate about and see if you can't work that back into media?" And that's exactly what I did. I went back to school at Columbia University full-time at night while I worked at ABC during the day. And I had to do all these science prerequisites because I really love nutrition and exercise science. And so, and I knew the value of the media. So you're talking about information in the news, that this is before the internet was as accessible, for people to get stuff online, whether it be TV segments or other information. And I really understood the value that the visual medium has for people as a source of information. And I know, like working at a news network, what that was like. So I figured that's what I was going to do. So I went and I got a double master's from Columbia. I did in applied physiology and nutrition, and I did my dietetic internship there. So I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and an exercise physiologist. I'm a fellow of the American College of Sports Medicine, a fellow of the the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I want to say the Dietetic Association. They changed their name. And I'm also board certified in lifestyle medicine by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine.
All right, let's start. I'm kind of confused here. What exactly is an exercise
physiologist? Yes. So basically, it's somebody who has a degree in exercise science, understanding how the body moves, right? And the effect of the body with movement and disease. And so, it's more than just the trainer at the gym, because that's, I wanted to make sure that I had a full understanding of human movement and exercise, because I was an exercise enthusiast, and a lot of people are exercise enthusiasts, but I wanted to make sure I had the best education I could. And that's what I did with, there's lots of online certifications. I even saw something today, people are talking about some of these nutrition coaches and some of these online programs. And I used to teach for New York Sports Club. I helped design an in-house personal training program for them. I helped write the curriculum, and I was teaching trainers how to be trainers. So there is a science to exercise. You can harm people if you don't do it right. And the same thing with nutrition. People can be harmed if they are not getting the correct information. And I don't think other people set out to do harm. I think they indirectly do untoward harm by not having the proper education and training so that they're providing people with really appropriate information.
As we age, nutrition
Who's
becomes
aging?
aging like fine wine.
Right,
That's,
exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
As we mature,
Yeah.
nutrition plays a more important role. And what's happened is now we have to worry about nutrition, our age, but there's so many new chemicals that are in our foods. What should we really look for?
Well, right. So chemical is it's a word that invokes a lot of emotion in people. So when we think about words and calling something a chemical versus a substance or a component, right, of foods, foods are made up of one of three things. They're made up of macronutrients, so that's carbohydrates, protein, and fat, and then the micronutrients, which are the vitamins and minerals. And sometimes there are other things in there too, like we're going to talk about. I'd like to talk a little bit about some things that have flip-flopped, but just to talk about like caffeine, for example, and coffee, right? Caffeine's not, you might want to call it a chemical, but it naturally occurs in not just coffee, but in things like green tea and other black teas. They naturally have caffeine in them. So, coffee or caffeine are one of those ingredients in foods that sometimes we hear it's bad for us, sometimes we hear it's okay for us. When you think about coffee specifically, there are other antioxidants that are in there. And the fact is, with caffeine, some people are sensitive to caffeine and other people are not, and that's in our genetics.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So whether or not, so some people know they get tachycardia, they get a rapid heart rate, they're very sensitive to caffeine, and then there are other people like myself that can have a double espresso and still go to sleep.
Well, I'm not one of those people. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I'm a chocolate eater.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of caffeine in that.
Yes.
So I find that sometimes it boosts me up and sometimes I get dragged down depending on what it is. But going back to the different substances in our food.
I'm happy to talk about some of those.
I find that I'm reading labels more and more.
Right.
What ingredients, and there was just an article about MSG, and it's giving Chinese food a bad rap, but I can't have any food with MSG. I get these blinding headaches.
Okay, so then you are personally sensitive to that.
Extremely sensitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then if you know that you're sensitive, then you avoid that, right? But when people are looking at ingredients, you want to see what's the first ingredient on the food. Like, I have yogurt here. So if the first ingredient on yogurt better be milk, right? It better be dairy, right? It better be milk. There are other components in there, like when there's fruit in there, sometimes somebody will look at there's a difference between the nutrition facts label and the ingredient panel. Sometimes people will look and say, oh, there's sugar in yogurt. It's like, well, yeah. It's called lactose. It's milk sugar. That's a component of dairy. You shouldn't necessarily look at that as a bad thing. But another ingredient I want to talk about that's in a lot of yogurts is something called carrageenan, which I brought this here. It's this red seaweed. I don't know if you want to try a little taste of it.
Oh, sure.
But it's the same thing that's found in like nori seaweed. And it's basically a plant vegetable. It's got fiber. It has some added health benefits, but it's used in yogurts and other things like shakes to help keep foods together, to help it from separating, right? As a fiber, so it's a plant fiber, so it's naturally occurring. And there's some added health benefits. It may help to reduce the time that people have colds and flus, which is really fascinating. It may help with lowering cholesterol too. And so, actually, believe it or not, that ingredients, they're going to be coming out with it in a nose spray because it's been so helpful, for people with managing cold and flu. So I think that's kind of cool. It's grown sustainably. I have a girlfriend who is from Ireland, and she said they called it Irish moss, that it helped people survive the potato famine. And so, we think about, food and what it's called on a label versus, here we go, it's red seaweed. But in Ireland, they call it carrageenan, right? It's used, the technical term is carrageenan, but something else I wanted to talk about is ascorbic acid, which is basically citrus fruits. People have, dietitians tell lots of stories about somebody being concerned, oh my goodness, there's ascorbic acid in my food. It's just citrus. It's a natural antioxidant and it helps to prevent foods from browning or spoiling. And so that's what we use. People use limes in guacamole so it doesn't turn brown. Some people use lemons on like apple slices when they cut them so they don't turn brown. So that browning is oxidation. It's when oxygen interacts with the sugars that are on the food. And so we can just use another fruit to make that go away.
Well, I got to tell you, this seaweed I love.
Yeah.
As long as I can buy it and just snack on it, because I like to snack on things.
Yeah.
But chocolate gets a little too much.
Yeah.
One day
maybe
it's
we
good
can
for
get
you.
that chocolate covered for you.
Hey, that sounds good. I like that. That's really good. Okay. Well, now, can you buy this individually?
Yeah, I bought it online on Amazon. I did buy it there. You might be able to find it in certain health food stores as well.
What ingredients would you suggest people really zero in to be healthy for?
Well, I want foods to have, I hate to even fall into the prey of saying like clean labels, right? But I want labels to be things that people understand. Like, I have a container of eggs here. It's just eggs, right? In the container, if you're getting orange juice, it's usually orange juice, right? Exactly. I mean, I've got nut butters here, and nut butters usually have nuts as the first ingredient. They may have some sugar, they may have some sodium in them, they may have other added oils in there, like I brought palm oil as an example of another oil that was demonized in the early 90s. But yes, now we've taken a step back and it's not so bad anymore. It's used as a natural replacement for trans fats in foods. It has a neutral flavor profile, which is why it's used in many different foods. And believe it or not, there are added health benefits because of the beta carotene and the tocotrienols, which is the vitamin E that's in there, that are neuroprotective. I mean, in fact, I take supplements of tocotrienols for brain health because you're talking about aging. And so there's research looking at the incident of cell regeneration in the case of stroke. If you have adequate or decent levels of tocotrienols in your body, but you need to already have them in your body. You can take them after a stroke, but you need to already have them existing. So that's why I've been taking them, sort of like they're not my insurance policy to prevent it, but in case I do, hopefully I'll heal myself better.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. So where can somebody get stuff like this?
Oh, well, tocotrienols are available. They're vitamin E. If you see like tocotrienols on label, those are available in any, health food store or drugstore. You can get them. All about trying to age gracefully, free from disease, and in as healthful a manner as possible.
What websites do you recommend people checking out or staying away from, or you don't want to talk about?
Oh, no, I could easily talk about that. First, I'd start with the government websites. I know people are a little concerned about that, but they have a very high standard. Any of the USDA, FDA, NIH, National Institute of Health, CDC, those websites provide some really good information. When it comes to nutrition, I would definitely recommend people go to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetic Association website, which is eatright.org, and you can get credible information there. Most hospital websites have credible information. Most universities, if they have specific centers, around whether it be nutrition or exercise, those are important too. For exercise science, I recommend the American College of Sports Medicine. They have some really great content that is consumer friendly too, because that's the other big one is to go to PubMed, that's PubMed.gov. That's where you go and you look up research articles and journal articles, but those can be very daunting to read for somebody who doesn't have a science background. And even as somebody with a science background, I could tell you that is the easiest way to put yourself to sleep is reading peer-reviewed scientific journals. So, there are a lot of abstracts that are available, but if you're ever curious about whether or not there's legitimate research that's been done about products, then PubMed.gov is your place to go.
It's a funny name to say, pub.gov.
Right.
But anyway.
Our tax dollars hard at work, providing us with resources. Yeah.
What about popcorn and bananas? I mean, I always eat organic bananas, but then I read something that said, you don't have to spend the extra money on organic because they're covered. Is this true?
So I'll tell you the truth. I do not personally go out of my way to buy anything organic. I know people are shocked when I tell them that, but I don't. There's many reasons why. As far as the nutrient content of food, the nutrition, the vitamins, the minerals, and the macronutrients are the same. And the fact is, when people buy organic produce, there are a few things to consider. One, they cost a lot more money.
True.
Because
Very
it's a more expensive process. They may come from a further distance, which means the carbon footprint is even greater, which is something that I try to minimize. And the fact is, organic produce has to have some form of pesticide on it too. So there's something being used to keep bugs out of our food because most of us don't want to eat bugs unless you're choosing that as your new form of protein. So I don't personally. And also, I live in New Jersey. I'm friends with a lot of farmers that are local. There are a lot of farmers that cannot afford to be organic, but they do grow in what I would consider an organic manner, or as close to organic as possible. So because they can't afford to do the certification doesn't mean that they're not minimizing, pesticide use. I mean, good farmers use good agricultural practices, which integrate crop rotation and other pest management techniques that they can use to keep pests out, and to utilize and preserve water better. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. At the end of the day, I want people to eat more plants, right? Like that is the one area that people don't eat enough plant-based foods.
I was reading that in China, I think it is, that they have geese and ducks going into the rice fields and eating all the pests in there.
Oh, they probably do.
I was thinking maybe we should incorporate that here in some of our farmers.
Yeah.
Now, I always buy, and it's expensive, organic eggs. You're saying not to worry about it.
Not to worry about it. Right, exactly. Again, I'm all for eating eggs, and actually part of why I brought this is people think eggs are bad for you because of cholesterol, but any food that comes from an animal has cholesterol. So you can eat eggs safely. I eat them a lot. I think they're a great source of protein. So eggs, dairy, and nuts are the least expensive form of protein. So when people think about things like beef or chicken or fish or turkey, those can be expensive for people. So I want people to, or if somebody wants to be like plant-based and do nuts and soy, they can do that too in order to ensure that they're getting adequate protein. But protein energy malnutrition is not a problem in the United States for most people. So, again, like if you want to, I'm not saying don't eat organic. I'm just saying if you can afford to eat organic and you choose to, that's okay. But I don't want people to get the message that if they don't eat like everything organic and, free range and grass fed and buy it at like more expensive grocery stores means it's better for you. I don't want people to think that healthy nutrition options are unattainable for them.
We are always inundated with the 1% of the wealth in this country. Do they eat different than the 99% people?
I would have to say no, because I'll give you examples of celebrities that have died from diseases that, in my opinion, they had the means to have people help them with. So you look at somebody like, oh my gosh, what was her face? Laverne. What is
Shirley Laverne?
No, not
Shirley.
Laverne. What was Penny Marshall?
Right.
I'm having a senior moment. Penny Marshall died from diabetes, complications of diabetes. That broke my heart. Diabetes, while it is a very challenging disease, especially type 2 diabetes, is related to weight, and it's related to food intake and physical activity. There was no reason why somebody like her, I know like Luther Vandross died from complications with diabetes, and Luke Perry just had a stroke, right? And so there's some speculation about whether or not he had hypertension and whether or not that was being treated. So, there are people that have, the means to go to doctors, to go to dietitians, maybe even to hire private chefs to cook for them, right? And so, look at even Oprah. She has said that she's been challenged with her weight, yo-yoing up and down. She's invested in things like Weight Watchers. She's also invested in True Food Kitchen. But that's another example of somebody who has a lot of means and access to a lot of professionals to help her out. And some people, it's just a personal struggle.
One of my favorite foods, good or bad, is milk chocolate.
Yeah.
They say you should eat it, but then they say you should not eat it. It's almost like eating, having coffee. One day it's good, one day it's not good, or eggs.
Right.
Because I remember people were only eating the whites of the eggs.
Right.
They wouldn't eat the whole egg, and I'm
Right.
thinking, this is so crazy.
All the good stuff's in the yolk. Right.
But I just wanted to share a funny story. My grandfather, he was in his late 90s when this whole, I was going to say, craziness started about the eggs and the cholesterol.
Right.
And he told my grandmother he's not going to eat the eggs because of the cholesterol. And she said, eat your eggs. It's not affecting you.
Right.
Word about chocolate.
Chocolate, well, I will tell you that dark chocolate's the one that has the alleged health benefits to it. So, right.
That's not good.
If you could switch over to dark, that would be great. But look, a little bit of chocolate, every once in a while, even milk chocolate is fine, and it's okay. The question is, how much are you having, right? It's really the dose that makes it the poison, or makes it not the poison. It makes it the antidote, right?
Well, if you have wine with it, does it counteract it?
Well, I could argue that wine is good for you too, but also in limited doses, in limited amounts. And it's interesting with wine as having health benefits, because I found a lot of women in menopause complain about the weight gain, and yet they've been drinking this glass of wine that they think is good for them, but it's not the 4-ounce glass. It's like an 8-ounce pour, which is 1 full cup, which is 2 servings of what it should be. And so, alcohol, as we age, we don't metabolize it quite the same. So when I've even said to some of my patients, like, why don't you knock out the wine? I know that we talk about the health benefits and the resveratrol that may be in there from the grapes, but some of the relaxing factors associated with the alcohol. But if you're concerned about your weight, I always say go for a clear alcohol instead. Go for like a tequila, a vodka, or a gin. I'm really serious. This is like a very serious subject, that if you're going to have alcohol in your late 40s and up, and you're worried about your weight, go for the clear liquor. Don't have a lot of mixers in your alcohol. And you can have your alcohol and enjoy it without it adding too many pounds to your bottom line.
Literally. Play on words is pretty good. As we age or mature, what is a good food to have for your gut? Because your gut plays such an important part in your health or well-being, whatever you want to call it.
So that's a great question. I just got back from being at a trade show, and there was a lot of conversation about gut health, and you hear a lot about probiotics. Probiotics are wonderful. They do occur naturally in foods like dairy, like in yogurt. They occur in fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi. But what they really need is they need fiber, and that's probably the one ingredient that people don't pay attention to. So it's not even that it's just one food. Plant foods have fiber, right? So fruits, vegetables, grains all have fiber. And more specifically, the grains, more so than the fruit. The fiber that's in those plants actually helps to feed the good bugs in our belly so that they flourish. So if you were to just take a high-quality probiotic and you didn't have any prebiotic fiber there, it would be like me dropping seeds on this table without water, soil, nitrogen, or sunshine and expecting it to grow.
Interesting.
So fiber is probably among the best things that we can take in for our gut and for our gut health. And the lining of our GI tract is really our window to health. It's our first entry point for a lot of things that come into our body, and it really helps with our immune function. And we're learning so much more about like the gut-brain connection. We're learning more about the gut and the cardiorespiratory system. We certainly are well aware of that when it comes to things like bowel movements and any GI issues that people have, like Crohn's, colitis, IBS. Those are all things that people have some real issues with. So making sure your gut is working well is important for everybody.
What is the best fiber to eat? Because I like to snack. And if I'm snacking, I don't want to gain weight.
Right.
And I don't want to OD on chocolate, which I have.
Yeah.
I will admit that.
Yeah.
What's something just to keep in the house? I mean, like nuts and...
Nuts, dried fruits, great. You can get dried beans too. I mean, they sell a lot of dried beans that you can snack on. Chickpeas, for example, is another thing. I like to have some grab-and-go foods, prepared in my refrigerator. So, I might make like a bean salad and then have that. It's real easy to make with a little olive oil, lemon juice, some herbs in it. Open up a few different cans of beans or buy the bags of beans and soak them and boil them if you have the time to do that. I mean, beans are really an excellent source of fiber. Breads, cereals, rice is not a good source of fiber. Things like sorghum.
Sushi.
Right, sorghum is another grain. Quinoa, chia, those are all sources of fiber as well.
Vitamin D, calcium,
Yeah, magnesium.
magnesium, and vitamin K
Yeah,
are good for building bones, maintaining bones.
right.
What foods would you recommend that could possibly incorporate them all, or make sure you get a lot of?
Dairy is one of the most nutrient rich forms of food. I mean, there's like 9 essential nutrients in dairy products. So, you know, you've got your vitamin D, you've got your calcium, you have some magnesium, you have some other minerals that are in there. Vitamin K, you know, we make that in our gut.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of new that they're even putting vitamin K into foods. It's one of those like smaller vitamins that we don't need a lot of, but we need some, and some people may have some issues not, you know, producing enough of it.
Well, let's say you're saying a lot of dairy. What if you're lactose intolerant?
Right.
What do you substitute? Because there's kefir.
Yeah, well, kefir's yogurt too,
Okay.
so that's kefir's dairy-based as well. It's just a different style of, you know, it's more of like a Russian style, Eastern European style of a yogurt like smoothie.
But there's also goat kefir.
Right, right. You could try goat. Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if a goat's milk kefir is going to have all the same nutrients put into it. I'd have to look at a label. You know, some of the nutrients get fortified back into the foods. So, but actually, one of my most favorite foods that I think is like eating a slice of a multivitamin is an avocado. And I
Love
didn't
'em.
bring one, but I know you're going to ask me about that. But I love them, and they actually sell mini ones right now, which I think was the most brilliant sort of hybrid of avocado, because this way you can eat the whole avocado. You don't have to just worry about eating half and then it turning brown and having to, you know, scrape some of it off.
You brought some interesting things here. We've got coffee, we've got yogurt, and you've got Nutella. How can you
And
brought-
Smart Balance. The reason why I brought the Nutella is just to talk about palm oil, that it's an ingredient that has been used. It's actually been in Nutella for a long time, and it's in a lot of milk chocolate because it has a neutral flavor profile. It has like a buttery texture to it, and it's not a trans fat. So it's been replacing a lot of trans fats in the diet. And so it's in the Smart Balance line, which we know helps to lower cholesterol. So whether it be the Smart Balance oils or their peanut butter, it's available in that too. Things like Luna bars have it in there. So it is used as an ingredient. I don't want people to be alarmed by its inclusion. And it's grown sustainably. It's non-GMO. Again, not that I care about that, but I just wanted to add that in for those people that are concerned about that. You know, there's, you know, soybean oil is pretty pervasive in our food supply, and there are other options out there. I mean, I have a whole array of oils that I use in my home. I use coconut oil, I use olive oil, I use palm oil. I sometimes use sesame or avocado oil. So I use blended oils, like depending on what I'm making, sometimes I need a different flavor profile or smoke point in my food.
I do a lot of cooking with coconut oil because I won't use anything basically with a soy based.
Right.
And so would you say that coconut oil is equivalent to palm oil?
I think they're similar, but the difference is coconut oil has a very distinct flavor. So like if you're baking and you don't want it to have that slight coconut taste, then palm oil is better to use. Even something like cooking an egg, if you want to make like a scrambled egg or an omelet, I don't personally like the taste of the avocado oil, the coconut oil interacting with the flavor of the egg. Like that, those to me are not two flavors that go together nicely. That's just me. Other people may really like it, but for me, that's not a winning combination for me. So, you know, that's where I really think that there's different oils, you know, different strokes for different folks. So I think you can use different oils depending on what you want to, you know, get out of it. Palm oil makes great popcorn too. If you want to do like an oil-based popcorn, it adds like a really nice buttery flavor to it when you make it.
Is popcorn good for you?
Yes, popcorn's a whole grain. I love it. It's a great snack. I do recommend, though, doing it the old-fashioned way with like a little bit of oil and a popper instead of a microwave popcorn because of all the, you know, and there are chemicals in microwave popcorn. And, you know, I have one of these machines that I plug in, I put a little bit of oil in, I throw the kernels in, it's got a lid on it, and it really does make the most delicious popcorn. You know, and I don't know about, you know, you, but I know when I went to college, I had a hot air popper. When my
So
daughter
did
went to
I.
college, I got her the hot air popper. My kids really like popcorn. It's a big snack in our house.
So can you OD on popcorn?
No. Good luck trying to do that. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, popcorn is very low in calories. And as long as you're not having it like swimming in salt or other toppings or other flavors, then I think it's okay to have.
Okay.
It's considered a whole grain.
You wrote a book.
Yes. Living Skinny and Fat Genes, the Healthy Way to Lose Weight and Feel Great.
What prompted you to write the book?
The book was basically a summation of everything I do in private practice. I wanted to, add being an author. I've always loved writing, and so it was sort of a way for somebody to feel like they're having a counseling session with me, even if they can't, right? So, or to take all that wonderful information that I share in a counseling session and have that with them. And so, when people read it, they tell me they hear my voice. It's really written. I wrote the whole thing myself. It wasn't ghost written by anybody. I really wrote the entire book myself and was happy to do so.
What would be the one takeaway from the book that you would like to share?
That eating well maybe just takes a little extra planning, but it's not unattainable. I always say the healthy choice is the easy choice. You just have to make it. So it could be eating, it could be the choice to exercise or to sit in front of a TV. You could exercise in front of the TV, but it's not, like things like exercise are not just about weight, it's about health, and to just, for people to sort of change some of their relationship with food and with physical activity and, just these are things that our bodies need to thrive and to live longer and to live free from disease or to minimize or delay how long it takes for us to get diseases. So, nobody's tying us down to a chair and saying you can't ever exercise and, shoving Cheetos down our throat, or something bad to eat, forcing you to drink chocolate milkshakes every day. It's a choice.
Being a New Yorker, you're always on the run.
Yeah.
And I always like to snack. And snack equals weight gain. What would you say is a good thing to carry with you so that you can satisfy your munchies while you're traveling the city?
Well, there are a few things. I like dried fruit. I like nuts.
Okay.
Those are really good. Some bars, some grab-and-go bars. I don't have it with me, but there's like this company makes this little disc. It reminds me of like the inside of a Fig Newton. It's literally like a little circle. It's got 3 ingredients. It's got a smashed fruit and like some nuts in it. It's called like Just 3. And I get one that has cacao in it. It has like cocoa, dates, and I forget which nuts is in it, but it's just a little disc and you just pop it open. It's dried fruit and I love that. It's just pressed in a little disc and that's an easy thing that I can keep in my pocketbook. But I keep bars. I keep a lot of bars. Or Biana is a company that makes dried chickpea snacks. So they also sell them in like little packs, like little like sleeves like that. So those are also good to keep in your bag too.
One product I don't touch is canola oil.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I don't want to touch vegetable oil either. But let's talk about canola oil. Is it good, bad, or what is it?
Well, canola oil, is a plant-based oil, and it comes from rapeseed, not grapeseed, rapeseed. Canola, right? So canola oil, it's generally, most of it I believe is from Canada, isn't that correct? So
that's my understanding.
Yeah. So with all the oils that are out there, canola is used a lot in blends. And so you see that in a lot of blended oils. I actually do use blended oils periodically because sometimes you need a different property and a different flavor profile in an oil. So I don't have an issue with using that. And again, I think we spoke about using a variety of different oils. So, when you're looking at potential health problems associated with using just one oil or another, it's usually because people are doing the extreme, like it's all or nothing. And we shouldn't be eating just all of one oil. Like even olive oil, as great as it is, you need to have more polyunsaturated fats too. You can't just have monounsaturated fat. And olive oil wouldn't taste good if you put that in cake mix, right? Like you wouldn't want your cake to taste like olives, right? A vanilla cake, right? Would not taste, or chocolate cake with olives might not taste so good.
So would you use vegetable oil or canola oil?
I would never just personally buy canola by itself.
Okay.
But a vegetable oil will tend to have a blend. It's usually like corn, canola. Sometimes it has soy in it. You know, you can't even really buy soybean oil a lot by itself. It's usually used in food service preparation. So, you know, we're not usually getting certain oils by themselves. You can get safflower oil. You can get sunflower oil. I mean, there's really an array of different oils that you can have. So when you're looking at safety properties of oils, understand that when they're looking at disease risks, you have to know whether or not, or whether they cause it, whether it's based on correlation data, making a relationship between a consumption and a disease, which means that there's a lot of factors. Why that is less reliable in science is because there are a lot of factors that are not controlled for when you're looking at the results. So you have to look at causation data or research that shows a cause and effect. And then if the cause is shown with very high dosage, right, in lab animals, that may not play out into the way we humans consume foods, right? And whether or not they used an animal that might be, whether it's looking at something like cancer, for example, they might use certain strains of mice or rats or rabbits when they're doing their research that they may have the ability to grow more cancer cells. Do you know what I mean? So they may try to be accelerating that rate. So that's why it's very hard when you look at research and you look at research studies to like break things down and really figure out, did they set out to study what they said? Were there other factors that were not accounted for? And I think with the relationship between ingredients in food and disease, it is very difficult to not take people's genetics into account, that when you're looking at a disease, like if somebody develops a cancer in their 40s or 50s, it's not just what they ate in the last 5 years, it's what they did their whole life until then. So it's their diet, their exercise, their stress, their sleep, what environmental toxins were they exposed to? Were they around pollution? What kind of, water were they taking in? I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint one thing that caused that to happen.
What was her other question?
Organic dairy. So whether or not we were talking about organic produce, the question is whether or not organic dairy is better than...
Oh, I thought we covered. Okay. All right. Would you say that organic dairy is better than conventional dairy?
No. I'm not the organic girl. I'm not, again, it goes back to growing methods and farming methods, and I have to say I have been blessed that I've had the opportunity to go on many farm tours, even with the Dairy Council, and I've gone to organic dairy farms. I've been to traditional, conventional dairy farms, and the same thing with beef. I've gone with the beef board to. I've been on pretty much almost every ag commodity has taken me on a trip to their farm to understand the differences in agricultural practices. So again, I think it comes down to money. I think it comes down to when you're looking at the nutrients in the food, you're looking at the protein, you're looking at the fats, you're looking at the vitamins and minerals, they are the same.
What about farm-raised fish?
So with farm-raised fish, I think farm-raised fish is a great way to produce fish that doesn't completely deplete our oceans and seas. I was at a conference where a woman said that if we just didn't fish for 1 year, everywhere, we would actually restore the aquaculture and restore all the fish back to the ocean. I mean, that's where I get challenged when people talk about being pescatarian, eating more fish. Yes, we should eat more fish, but the problem is we are over-consuming it at a rate where we're not putting it back into the water. So, the idea of having farm-raised fish, and people think, oh, the tanks are dirty, there's pollutants in there. I've been invited by fish farmers that have said, if you want to come see our facility and get in a tank and swim with the fish, you will see how clear and clean the water is. I mean, those folks that are growing the food for us, or even raising fish, the way a farmer would raise beef or chicken, they want to do it in the best manner so that that fish is a high quality. I mean, nobody wants to buy foods that are polluted, right? Nobody's going to get a good reputation as a farmer for having food that is, not a quality product. So,
What's the one food that you recommend to eat for fiber?
I would have to say for fiber, quinoa probably has the highest amount of fiber as in terms of the grains that are out there. But I'm also the type of person that takes a fiber supplement every day. I helped create a fiber supplement called Regular Girl. So I take that. It's made with sun fiber, which is a guar fiber. So I take that every single day religiously.
In the closing moments of the show,
Yes.
what would you like to leave the audience with?
I just want people to know that the healthy choice is the easy choice. You just need to make it.
Well, is your healthy choice the easy choice? Look forward to hearing from you. Please write us here at The Woman's Connection. Bye now.